Hi, everybody. Oh, bye, guys. My name is Bronwyn Lewis, and I am a product manager on the Adobe Video team. I specifically look after the motion graphics templates and the graphics workflows between After Effects and Premiere Pro. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how to up your graphics game using motion graphics templates, and also show you a couple of hidden gems that have been around, some of the things that are brand new, and some things that have been around for the past couple of releases. So without further ado, I am going to jump in with a hidden gem that is new in this release. So I'm here in the graphics workspace. If you're not familiar with workspaces, these are these targeted workspaces that we've designed around helping you with working in specific areas such as color, audio, and graphics. We also have a new learning workspace. If any of you are kind of newer to Premiere Pro, we've got a learning workspace that's actually specifically targeted at helping getting you up and running and familiar with the program. But I'm here in the graphics workspace, which means that I've got my program monitor up, I've got my tools right over here, and then I have the Essential Graphics panel open. So new in this release is the comparison mode, which lets you compare either shots within your sequence or also compare the same shot side by side as you're making changes to it. We developed this for the color workflows and the shot matching, but it actually can be used with any effect. So I'm going to quickly go into that mode, and here I can switch between shot or frame comparison. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to frame comparison so that I'm just looking at the same frame side by side. And now I'm looking at my motion graphics template. Now I can edit this template and make some changes to it. Maybe I want to change the color, see what that looks like. And I can do all of that in this view and kind of see a before and after. And this works with any effect. And that's just one of the hidden gems that we've got in this new release. So I'm going to actually back it up and kind of give you an overview of the graphics landscape in Premiere Pro. So I'm going to go to a new sequence here. And how many of you have used Essential Graphics for titling in Premiere Pro? Actually, that's better. At first, I was going to be like, one person. No, there are a handful of you. Awesome. And are any of you folks still using the legacy titler? Okay, cool. A couple folks there too. So I'd love to talk to you about why you're still using that and what you're finding useful there. But I also want to show you a couple of things that are in the Essential Graphics panel that you might not know are there that relate to the legacy titler workflows. So the first thing is I mentioned this tool well here. So I've got my type tool. And when I'm in Essential Graphics, I've got this panel here where I can inspect and edit all of the things that I'm creating. So with my type tool, if I want to make a new text layer, I can just click and start typing. But if you want to create something that in the legacy titler we called the area type tool, it's a text box, you just click and drag with your type tool and it'll create a box, and as you type, the text will wrap into fit that box. So that's one of those things that some folks had some trouble finding, so I want to make sure you know about it. Now in Essential Graphics, I'm going to choose this text layer. And this is where I can edit it. I can do things like look at how it's aligned with other objects within it. I can center it in the video frame if I want. I can choose my fonts. And I can also use something called master styles. Master styles let you assign a style to a graphic layer, a text layer, or to an entire graphic, so a clip that might contain multiple text layers, and parent it to a particular style, which means, let's say you have like 300 titles in your video, and they're all using the same kind of a font. Later, your producer comes back with a change and says, oh, we want to change that font, or oh, we want to change the color. That would be a lot of work to update each single instance. So if you use master styles, you can actually parent them in such a way that you can ripple out changes across your sequence. So for an example, I've got this clip right here, and if you look at this master styles, I'm using a style that I created called caption. I've also used this in another graphic right before it. So I've got these two versions, two titles. And I want to try out what it might be like to do, maybe I want to try using like, what does that look like in all caps? And I don't totally love that, but you can see that it's tracking all the changes that I'm making. So it remembers that it was parented to that master style caption, but that I've now made changes to caption. So I can either, if I liked that change, I could push it out and ripple that change across, or I could also kind of reset and sync back down from that master style. So I'm just going to reset it back down. Maybe I want to play with the color. Maybe I want to see what a kind of bold neon-y green would look like on this video for that caption to make it pop more. And I actually like that one. Again, it's noting that my caption has been modified, And this time I'm going to push it out to the other instances in my video, and now that one in the reference monitor has also changed. So that's a kind of tip and trick that you can use and quickly make changes throughout your project. Something that's new in Premiere Graphics for this release is that we now support gradient fill for shapes. Again, that was some of the things that folks were missing from the legacy titler, so we've gone in, we've done that. So I'm going to make a shape. The shape tools are kind of hidden, so some folks have had a little trouble finding them. If you hold down on the pen tool, you'll expose the rectangle and ellipse tools. So I'm going to get that rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle here on the screen. And if you work in Photoshop, which I'm sure many of you do, you'll recognize that what's happening over here in Essential Graphics is it's actually a layer stack just like you're used to working with in our other products in design and in video. So I can now reorder that shape, make it fit under that, so I can start to build up a lower third graphic. And like I said, what's new this time around is that this fill can now accept gradients. So in my color picker, I'm going to choose a linear gradient. And now I've got my opacity stops and my color stops that I can work with and customize and make that a little bit brighter. So I'm just going to make a color there, and I'll choose maybe a red over here so I can build up that gradient. And I can also adjust the midpoint here, adjust the location and the angle of that. But what's really cool is the direct manipulation that we've got with working with a gradient. So with my arrow tool here, I can actually expose the endpoints of that gradient, and I can move them around on my screen as well. I can also grab that little X right there. That is the midpoint of that gradient, so I can play around with that and just really intuitively interact with my shape and the gradient within it. So I think that's looking all right. I'm sure the most amazing graphics anyone's ever seen. I'm a product manager, sorry in advance. But something that's super powerful is that you can also add responsive design to your graphics that you're building in Premiere Pro. That it actually is something we released in the fall. And so with my, let go of my gradient there. And so with this shape selected in the Essential Graphics panel, I'm going to go into this responsive design section. And I want this shape to kind of grow and expand as it's tracking the name in this lower third, so that the name doesn't get longer than the box, and I don't want to have to resize the box. So I'm going to go ahead and choose where I want to pin it to. I'm going to pin it to the layer that is the name of the person on screen, Kyle Thurman, environmental activist. And I'm going to choose to pin it to all four sides of that text layer. So now, let me see if I go here. And let's say that I'm working with Kyle's name gets just longer and longer and longer. And as you can see, that box is growing now to accommodate that. So that's actually preserving that relationship that I established when I set up those pins. Same thing happens. If it gets shorter and shorter and shorter, I can make it grow and kind of react with that shape. What's extra cool about this feature is that then if you're just building some graphics in Premiere Pro that you actually plan to animate later in After Effects, you can copy and paste this graphic into an After Effects composition, and we'll generate that expression for you, which is kind of like source rect at time expression, which folks who aren't super, I mean, After Effects is a really amazing, complex, and deep tool, and I greatly admire everyone who can use it. I'm not one of those people who's deeply skilled in it, so it's a really huge help for kind of getting started and starting to rough out those graphics. The last thing with Premiere Graphics that I am going to show you is, again, another thing that's new in this release. So I'm going to click on this text layer I've made, and I'm just going to quickly center it. And what I want to do is I want to have this title fly in from the bottom and land in the center. So now in 12.1, which we shipped last week, and you can go and try yourself, you can now use these buttons for position, scale, opacity, rotation, and anchor point as buttons that will actually toggle and target that layer for animation. So when I click on this, it turns blue, which lets me know that that's active for animation. And you'll see that it's actually dropped a keyframe here in my timeline. If you're not, how you show keyframes here is if you right-click on that little FX button, there's a quick shortcut here to actually show keyframes, and you can choose what you're looking at, what element of that layer you're looking at. So right now I'm looking at the position keyframe, that's good. And now I want to, like I said, make that fly in from the bottom and kind of land in the center. So I'm just going to move my playhead here, and I'm going to get my arrow tool, and now I'm just going to move that layer down. And you can see it's generating some keyframes That's what that blue line is there. Let's go. And now it'll fly in. It's kind of a little bit of an angle because I let go of the shift key there, but there it flies in. And again, I've shown my clip keyframes here. I can go in, I can also right click, and I can add an ease into that. So now that's going to make that a much smoother animation. So quickly, without having to switch context to another panel, I can add that animation and refine it. Toggling any of these buttons over here for position, rotation, scale, opacity, and anchor point is the same thing as if you had gone into effect control. So it's just another shortcut. It's the same thing as toggling that stopwatch over there for position. And as you can see, it's actually written those keyframes there. So if you prefer to work in effect controls, or if you've got a reason to go over there, that's a great way to just kind of rough stuff in. And I said that was the last thing, but I actually lied, because the very last thing I want to show you is responsive design time. So sometimes as you're building graphics, especially if you're making something for social or making a couple different variations, you might need a graphic that flies in from the bottom of the screen and then zooms out at the end, but you don't know kind of what the end product, like how long it needs to be. Is it going to be 5 seconds, 10 seconds? If you add responsive design to your graphic as a whole, you can preserve that intro and outro animation and then squeeze or stretch the middle so that graphic can actually change its overall duration. So here, you can either do that in the Essential Graphics panel with no layers selected. You can add like a couple of seconds here, and you'll notice that it added this gray bar over here in Effect Controls. You can also edit or change this in Effect Controls by dragging that out. And that shaded region is now protecting these keyframes so that as I change the overall duration of this graphic, those are actually being protected. So this can also get quite short, and it'll still remember that that's an animation section that I've cared about and now I can protect. All right. So this presentation, though, is about motion graphics templates. You can export your Premiere graphic as a motion graphics template right here, and then save it for future reuse. But I think the real power actually comes when you're using motion graphics templates between After Effects and Premiere Pro. So I'm going to go to the 3,500-foot view for just a second here and show you a couple of slides. So motion graphics template have a file extension .mogrt. What the heck is a mogurt? Rhymes with yogurt, not yogurt, although that sounds pretty good right now. It's been a long day. A motion graphics template is, mogurt is an ugly word for a beautiful file format. We introduced this last year at NAB, and we've made some great improvements to it, but it's short for motion graphics template, which are these files that have the creative capability of After Effects, but are designed to be used and easily customized by editors when they're working in Premiere Pro. So let's see, I'm gonna go back. All right. So what that looks like in Premiere Pro is with my motion graphics template here, that this one was created in After Effects. And in the Essential Graphics panel, I have all these fields that I can customize and edit. So let's say I want to change the text. Instead of cinematography by, change the wording there just a little bit. I can do things like adjust the position of that element on screen to make it match my graphic a little bit, the video underneath it a little bit better. Maybe I can scale it up. I want to make a version of this video to go to social media, so I want that to be really easy to read. And so all of these controls that are exposed here are things that I can customize in context without having to go into After Effects and having to dig around in those composition layers to figure out what things are matter and important. So this is a way that either when you're working, how many folks here are motion designers themselves? A half of a person. Awesome. So this is this is great for you folks if you're working as editors. Then this is something that you can ask motion designers, or you can even get stuff from Adobe stock, which I'll talk about a bit later, and you can actually customize these without having to know After Effects yourself. For the one guy in the back, how you create these in After Effects is After Effects is this really deep and amazing and complex tool. This composition, that animation I was showing you, actually has all of this stuff going on in it. What looks like a simple animation, there's actually like code in here. That's what I'm talking about with expressions. Like, After Effects is amazing and crazy, and I am not that person. So to make a motion graphics template in After Effects, all you do is go into Window, Essential Graphics, and you can start building up the things that matter the most. So this is where the motion designer is building that UI that then you see in Premiere Pro and you can customize. So there's a button up here called Solo Supported Properties, so I'll just grab that. And what that does is it changes what's in view in my timeline to be all the things that can be added to a template. Anything that can be controlled with a text box, a color picker, a slider, a checkbox, and now 2D position, rotation, and scale can be added to a motion graphics template. And to do that, you just drag it right up into that panel, and then you can control, build up your UI. So I want to add something for position. I want to add one for scale. I want to add something for rotation. And so I can do that. If I want to give this a bit more of a meaningful name so that either myself using it later or someone I'm collaborating with can use it, give it a better name like this, like edge wipe rotation. And then the last thing I want to add is that job title field. So I'm going to look for job title. Come on. There we go. There it is. And I want to grab that text layer, just drag it in, source text, add that there, write that job title. So now I've built up all the UI for this template. This is the stuff that matters to change in context. And this can be as complicated as you want it to be. You can give folks who are using your templates a lot of creative control. But the real power of it is also that you can lock it down. So let's say that you're working on lower thirds for a news channel. If you only want people to be able to change the name, just give them a text field. Don't give them a color picker. Don't give them any other controls. And they can just edit that lower third in context. And if you're building something for Adobe stock or to sell as a contributor or to work as a delivery format for a production team, then you can build in all that complexity as much as you want. It's a really lightweight export format, so normally if you wanted to take this composition into Premiere Pro or export as a video, it might take a little while. You'd go get a cup of coffee, have a cigarette, whatever. This is actually super fast. So I'm going to click on Export Motion Graphics Template, and it'll ask you to save it. We'll say yes. And then you've got a couple of options of where you want to save it. If you're working by yourself, the local templates folder is a great place because it's a shared directory between Premiere Pro and After Effects. If you're collaborating with others, you can also choose another location on disk, or you can choose any one of your Creative Cloud libraries, and everybody will get instant access to whatever you put there. But I'll choose that local templates folder and hit OK. I want to replace it, because I already did this demo. And that's it. It actually already exported that whole thing. In the blink of an eye, you probably missed it. It's done. It rendered it out. So it's a really cool new file format. So back in Premiere Pro, some of the other things. So again, that's how that UI shows up in Premiere Pro. That's what we built in After Effects just now. And there's all that control, the position, the scale, the rotation. So it's really easy. Let's customize that a little bit more. I think that looks nice. So that's all there. But I've used this template a couple of times in the sequence already. So previously, if you got a change, so let's say that we were testing out this cursive font, but we actually want to use a bold font because we want to put this on social. We want it to be really easy for somebody to read on their phone. Previously, if that happened, your producer gave you a new version, you would have to go in and manually update every single template in your project and re-customize all of those layers. New in this version, you can actually just replace that and preserve those changes that you've made. So I'm going to go over to that Browse tab and find the template that we just were working on. And if you're familiar with Essential Graphics from the past few releases, all of this stuff is going to be really new and exciting. We now support Hover Scrub to preview, so you can see an animation in your template before you put it in your timeline. We've got an info view, so you can see more information about it. A little bit bigger preview. You can see any keywords that maybe have been added to it. You can remove them. You can add keywords to help you organize and search your content better. And you can also restrict your search to specific locations like a library or only to local. And you can enter your search terms. So I want to go find that credit. So that'll pop up everything that has credit in the title or in its keywords. And then I can also further refine it and I can search for my favorites. So here we've got this master credit bold, uses a sans serif font. And so to replace everything in my timeline, I'm going to hold down Alt or Option and drag it into my timeline. And what it's going to do is it's going to notice that I've used this graphic multiple times in my project and say, do you want to replace this in every location that we found? So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And it replaced it there, but you can also see, oh, don't do that. Sorry, guys. You also see that it has replaced it everywhere else that I used it in the sequence, preserved all that customization of that angle, of the text, and so I haven't lost any time. It's actually super, super efficient. I think then that I'm ready to move on to the next thing, which is that I probably fooled you with my demo of After Effects and you think I'm a really great motion designer, but it's not true. So the other thing that we've done to enable folks to be able to work more quickly is we've also integrated Adobe Stock right here in the panel. So if you are not familiar, Adobe Stock is Adobe's content library. We commission designers to make motion graphics templates. We've got thousands of professionally designed templates that were made in After Effects specifically for use in Premiere Pro. We also have 4K and HD video, lots of images, millions of assets, thousands of templates. And so you can just click on, right in your Central Graphics panel, this Adobe Stock button. And this will bring up some of those templates that we've got. You can do a preview again of that animation. You can find out more information about them, like whether it's free or premium, what kinds of fonts it uses, what kinds of things are customizable. You can see all those keywords there. You can also, we understand that sometimes you don't have a big budget for a production, and graphics are one of those places where things can get really expensive. So you can also just check that you only want to look for stuff that's free. And then that'll reduce and restrict your search to stuff that's going to be free. This template right here was actually designed by Valentina V. She was one of our customers who was speaking on stage earlier. Andrew Kramer's made a couple of them, so we've got a really great library. And if any of you, I think the motion designer person left, but if any of you are interested in becoming motion designers, you can actually contribute motion graphics templates to Adobe Stock. We've got a booth right on the other side of this kiosk here, and you can go talk to Teresa and find out more, or you can also take a photo of this slide and send us an email or go check out that website and find out more about what it takes to contribute. But since I think most of us here are folks that might be using these templates, I want to show you how easy it is to license them. So for something that's free, all you have to do is drag it into your timeline, and that will just license it and put it right into your project. And there it is, and now you can start customizing it for that specific use. But I also, like I said, I want to make something that is going to go on social, so I want to go find some captions. And I've got some credits, so I don't really mind if it costs money or not. I can see that I've already licensed a couple of these ones. They've got a little blue check mark. And anything that's premium, I can see it's got a $sign. So it's really easy for me to tell at a glance, especially if budget is a consideration, what's free and what's not. So I'm going to go see it. Actually, I really like this style of caption here. So I am going to just you drag it into your project, right into your timeline, right where you want it. And if it costs something, we will ask you if you want to use one of your licenses to license it. Just hit OK. And dun, dun, dun. If it's missing any fonts, it'll let you know, so you can sync those from Typekit. I'm not going to bother with that just now. But there it is, there's my template, and I can just start customizing it right away, adding all those lanes of text. And that was really incredibly fast for me to get started. So those are just some of the things that are new in Premiere Pro, specifically around graphics. I'll be just over here if anyone's got questions about how to use motion graphics templates or how to contribute them. Just as a quick recap, if you're a motion designer, motion graphics templates are a really great way for you to collaborate with editors while maintaining creative control, because only the stuff that you put into the template is something that somebody using it in Premiere Pro can then edit. It also frees you up from having to do things like, let's say, fix a typo in a lower third and go find that and open up your project, because you can enable the person using the template to actually do that themselves. And it also saves you time there's not rendering or file relinking, because everything is packaged up into a single file. And then especially when you're using it with libraries, it means that you can ensure everyone's always using the latest version. And if you're an editor, it really allows you to scale up your punch above your weight when it comes to motion graphics, because you can add sophisticated motion graphics to your sequences, and then you can also make changes yourself in context without having to open up another application or asking someone else to make revisions. And of course, Adobe Stock is there if and when you need a little help with getting that content. Anyone interested in contributing? Again, that's my last slide, and thanks for your time. Up next, Rich Harrington.
My name is Peter Essenyi, and I work for Territory Studio.